10 minutes.
At this time, we'll open up the Garden Grove City Council. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Beard.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Member Vaughn.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen. Mayor Broadwater.
Here. Let's have a salute to the flag. Okay. Would you do that for us, Mr. Barron?
Sure. Please face the flag right hand over your heart. Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is consideration of options to address coyotes within the city limits. We're going to do this a little backwards today. We're going to let staff make a presentation to us of what the options are on dealing with the coyotes, and then we'll discuss it amongst ourselves, and then we will hear from everybody that wants to speak on it. We have a number of cards here. And that's all legal. It's all before us voting on anything. So let's see the presentation, please.
Mr. Mayor, Maria Stipe will make the presentation this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. During oral communications at last week's City Council meeting, residents shared concerns regarding an increased presence of coyotes in the city, and in particularly on the west end of the city. The increased presence of coyotes has been accompanied by an increase in attacks on pets, with both dogs and cats having been killed or injured. Sharon Maneras spoke at last week's council meeting, and she had reported that she logged reports from West Garden Grove's Facebook page from their Neighborhood Watch interactions, and reported that 17 animals had been killed and 3 animals were injured within the 92845 population. Since that time, our police department has updated the numbers from the Facebook page, and through today's date, we have a report of 19 animals killed, 6 injured, and that's as of March 1st through today's date. So following City Council discussion last week, staff was directed to identify options that can be implemented to address the coyote problem in the city. In response, staff has researched the issue and identified several options for the City Council's consideration. Before presenting the options, though, I want to briefly share some important background information, and I'll do that through this PowerPoint presentation. So what we've done is put together a coyote management plan. Coyote sightings, when we have sightings of coyotes in the city, what does that mean? Coyotes are naturally diurnal. That means that they're active at dawn and dusk. They naturally avoid humans or people. However, coyotes living in close proximity to people can become habituated or lose their fear of people. And so I think that's what has been occurring, and that's what's been reported by some of our residents. Coyote habituation. Coyotes usually become habituated when they learn that people and or neighborhoods are a source of food. So when people leave pet food outside after their pets are finished with their meal, and it's out there beyond just the feeding period, that could become food for coyotes. Barbecue or food scraps, unsecured trash, compost piles, fruit trees, so any fruit tree that drops fruit could become food for coyotes. Bird feeders, a lot of people enjoy birds and the wildlife in their backyards, but those bird feeders can also become attractants for wildlife in backyards. Habituation is a learned behavior, and whether knowingly or unknowingly, we can reinforce this with the coyotes. So that's something that we need to be aware of. Will coyotes attack pets? I think we all know the answer to that. Typically, coyotes normally hunt small rodents, mice, rats, squirrels, rabbits, things of that nature. However, unattended pets, especially small dogs and cats, are at risk of coyote attack. Larger breed dogs are at higher risk during coyote breeding season, which is in the springtime. So even a larger breed dog can potentially be at risk. So given that, it's very important that all of us practice proper pet care and safety with our animals. Protecting pets, these are just common practices, and this is part of the education program that the city would advocate. But we want to keep cats and small dogs indoors or in the close presence of an adult. Oftentimes that's not practical, but to the extent possible, we would want to do that. And again, to the extent feasible, we would want to try to feed our pets indoors. Use shorter leashes when walking pets. Store your trash in covered heavy-duty containers. In Garden Grove, we use heavy-duty containers, so it shouldn't be much of an issue. We want to keep our yards free from potential animal shelters, such as thick brush and weeds, so we don't want to have overgrown yards and things of that nature. We want to enclose bottoms of porches and decks so that there's not nesting areas for wildlife in our backyards. Also, we would want to eliminate potential food and water sources such as fallen fruit. We mentioned that, and standing water. Those are all attractants for coyotes. Do coyotes attack people? Coyote attacks on people are very rare. On average, there's just over 12 bites per year. When you put that in comparison to 4.7 million dog bites per year in the United States. So it is very rare. When it does occur, it typically involves a minor injury, and in many cases, the injuries occur where there was feeding, or somebody might have been trying to feed a coyote, or breaking up an interaction between a pet and a coyote. We always want to make sure our children are safe, so we have safety tips especially for children. We never want to leave small children unattended outside. That's, with regard to coyotes or not, no coyotes. But definitely don't leave small children unattended. We want to pick up a small child if there is a coyote nearby. So certainly if you do see a coyote, you want to pick up your child and keep your child close to you. We always want to teach children safety around strange dogs or just any animals in general. There's an acronym, Be Smart. You want to stop and don't make it, this is in particular for children, stop and don't make any sudden moves. You want to make yourself look as big as possible, announce yourself by making a noise, and retreat by backing away slowly, and then tell an adult as soon as possible. Coyote hazing, we played a video in advance of last week's council meeting, and this is a training method that's promoted by the Humane Society and Department of Fish and Game. And this methodology employs immediate deterrence to move an animal out of an area or discourage any undesirable behavior or activity. So this can be very effective, and certainly we would advocate this with any kind of program that we would implement. So coyote hazing, it uses various techniques to reinstill the natural fear of humans back into a habituated coyote. These techniques include yelling and waving of the arms, banging pots and pans, using squirt guns, throwing things. So anything that you can do to make yourself appear bigger, louder, and more threatening to a coyote, you want to try to shoo them away and get them out of your neighborhood or out of the area to the extent feasible. This learned behavior is passed on to family members and pups. So as coyotes become more fearful of human interactions, they pass that fear on to their family members and pups as well. So it kind of gets spread through their packs. Additional tips and precautions. If you are engaging in hazing activity, you never want to haze a sick or injured coyote. behavior of sick or injured coyotes is unpredictable. We have on our website, and you can click on the very front page of the City of Garden Grove website, a lot of information about coyotes and interactions with coyotes and safety and such. But we do, if you do see a sick or injured coyote, we ask you to call Orange County Animal Care, and they will send somebody out to address the problem. And if there's a situation where there's danger, a coyote perhaps is making an attack on a child or something like that should happen to happen, of course you would call 911 immediately. You never want to haze a cornered coyote. You want to ensure that there's plenty of room for a coyote to escape. So if a coyote is cornered, you definitely don't want to engage in that behavior. And young children should call for an adult. And it's very important for children not to run from a coyote. So the hazing is one technique to reduce the habituation and reinstill fear back into the coyote population. There are additional measures that can be considered, and one of those measures would be relocation. However, in talking to the Humane Society and Department of Fish and Game, we are told that this is not a viable method to pursue. There was a study done by Cook County Coyote Project, and in this project they monitored 12 relocated nuisance coyotes, and none of those coyotes remained at the release site. All of them were gone within 48 hours. They all traveled toward their original home range, and none returned successfully. They were all killed by either hunters, cars, or disputes with other coyotes. So I think what we've been told is it's actually less humane to try to relocate a coyote than it is to euthanize a coyote, because they never make it back successfully. So that's what's involved with that. And then another option is coyote trapping abatement programs. And this method or option can be implemented to reduce the coyote population, and also importantly to reinstill fear in the coyote population. So if the hazing isn't enough, the trapping can reinstill a fear into the coyote population, and we're told that they can communicate this on to their other pack members. But the concern or the thing that to be aware of with regard to coyote trapping and abatement programs is that the habitat requirements are still available. So you can reduce your coyote population, but they're going to repopulate your area, your habitat, if you still have food and attractants available for them. And they actually, the female coyotes will have larger litters to refill the void in the population. So if you are going to reduce or pursue the trapping option, it's very important to concurrently reduce the attractants to the coyotes. So try to address both problems at the same time. So without a strong education or wildlife watch program, communities will see a return in size of coyote populations following trapping or abatement efforts. So this brings us to our program options, which are the education and hazing component, the relocation, which, like I said, is not a real viable option, but we listed it there anyway. And then there's trapping and abatement, and or a combination of the education, abatement, and also structural deterrence. We're told that if you hire a good trapper, that when they're out there canvassing the area and determining where to set traps and such, they can also identify entry points and voids within your structural system where potentially you can extend fencing or, barricade an area, perhaps a grate in a storm drain or storm drain area or something like that could potentially help to deter a coyote from entering a particular area. So those are the primary program options, and, just recognizing all of the input that we heard from the community last week, we went ahead and set up a hotline number so that we could ask our residents to call in, and if there is a coyote sighting, then we can start to gather information with regard to location that would be helpful if we did decide to pursue, a trapping program or something of that nature. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question, Maria. As far as the difference between trapping and relocation, is it just one step before the other? We trap them, then we relocate them, or what happens with them after we trap them?
With the trapping, the trapper, once he catches the coyote, he actually euthanizes the coyote. So it's actually removed from the population.
Wow.
How far did they, on the Cook County, how far did they relocate them? I mean, what was the distance?
I'm not sure the exact distance. I know it was quite far, and this has been reiterated by all of our interactions with Fish and Game and Orange County Animal Care and the Humane Society. So all of them are seeming to provide this similar information.
I also understand, Maria, that as far as we take matters to our own hands, where we either poison the coyotes or, basically take them out, that's illegal, right, Tom? Is that my understanding?
I can
Or
answer that
Maria?
based on discussion with Fish and Game earlier, or at the end of last week. The poisoning is illegal, and for the reason that it would be dangerous.
Okay. Thanks, Maria.
You mentioned stay away from sick or injured coyotes. How do you know whether it's a sick or injured coyote?
Well, you can't always know, and if you're unsure, you should call Orange County Animal Care. But oftentimes you can tell if, I know I had an injured raccoon in my front yard about a year ago, and he was dragging his foot and walking like he was crippled, and so, I think sometimes you can tell, but sometimes it's probably a little bit more difficult.
Okay, let's clarify. When you say abatement, are you talking about trapping?
Abatement? Abatement can include trapping only or a combination of trapping and shooting.
Relocating?
No. It would include either the coyote would be trapped and euthanized, or the coyote would be shot and, disposed of.
Did we discuss the costs and the different options?
We have gotten cost estimates, and a trapping program can be done for less than $5,000. What they typically do is trap for a 2-week period. They come in and they set the traps, and they monitor them every evening. Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Every evening, they come out and check the traps and make sure, they're watching them properly, and then if anything's caught, then they would, take care of it. And then they do that just during the weekday. They don't do any trapping on the weekend.
How many sightings did we have since the last Tuesday night?
We have, sightings.
I know there was one the police took a picture of at the corner of Trask and Magnolia.
Right. We didn't actually calculate the number of sightings. We just calculated the number of injuries and deaths. So I'm sure that there have been many more sightings.
I understand there was one right outside the city council chambers here not too long ago.
Really?
I can't imagine why they wouldn't come here. I mean, with all the
Right.
rabbits and ducks and chickens and...
We did hold a forum. Councilman Beard attended the forum in June. It was held here at the Community Meeting Center in the B Room. And at that forum in June, there were a couple of residents who lived just right around the Civic Center. And one of them had reported that his dog, he lost his dog to a coyote, and we had heard that there was another coyote sighting just very close to City Hall.
Any other questions for staff? Let's go to the public. We'll open up the public discussion. Jessica Flicker?
Hi, good evening. I live in West Garden Grove and part of the Neighborhood Watch on Facebook. And a lot of people are saying that these sightings are new and we see a lot of them. But social media, you see a lot of it. I wasn't aware of all the break-ins in the house. I wasn't aware of the car thefts and stuff stolen or the gas siphon. So you're more aware of everything now. But killing and trapping or disposing of these coyotes is not right. I feel for the people that lost their animals. I have pets, I have young children, and it's just not right. It's inhumane. We don't treat our dogs that catch rodents in their natural habitat and their instincts to do it. Cats trap birds, attack them, kill them, bring them inside the home sometimes. Rats. We have a garden in our backyard. Some of our fruit and stuff has been eaten, so we tried to see what it was, and mainly we caught possums and skunks and no coyotes. We released them in the backyard and they walked off like nothing. And it's not, coyotes are around. They have been around for years. My mother-in-law lives down the street, and she's original homeowner for 60 years, and she's seen coyotes and heard coyote stories all her whole time of owning a house. And this is not new. It's been around for a long time, and getting rid of them does not solve anything. That's all I have to say.
Mark Fickler.
Hey, council member, it's a pleasure. It's my first council meeting. It's my wife. My mother is the original homeowner, like she said. 42 years, lived in 92845. Spent my whole life there. Moved away, got married, and decided to raise my family there. We've had coyotes, we've had possums, raccoons. I've seen it all. I've seen hawks take animals off the walls, cats, possums also. I don't think it's a big deal. I just think we need to educate, teach everyone how to keep their animals in their houses. We've had problems with cats and neighbors across the street leaving food out all night, feeding stray animals, stray cats. They walk across the street like they own the place. I have problems with neighbors' cats coming in my yard, pooping in my planters, and at night in the summer when I open up my windows, I get to smell it all night long and have to clean it up every morning. I think these things, coyotes, somewhat of a godsend. Get rid of the possums, get rid of some of the skunks so they don't eat my garden anymore, and teach people how to keep their pets in their house and out of my yard. That's it. Thanks.
Sharon Monanaris.
Good evening. I just wanted a couple of things. First of all, we want to thank you. We have become very used to agencies. We've been asking for help, and politicians, we ask for help. And last week when we came, we were so wonderfully surprised to find ears to hear us, and we so appreciate and so thank you for that. We have a little bit of a concern that might be an added issue, is that we have Halloween coming up. We're going to have pumpkins out in our homes, on the streets. We're going to have a lot of children out when trick-or-treating, during the time that the coyotes are active. We had a runner. She's a jogger in our group. She jogs along the gullies, and she has seen coyotes. She reported seeing coyotes many times, and they ran from her. She saw one last week, and it stood its ground, and it stared her down, and she was rattled, and that indicates to her that it the loss of fear of humans.
What do you mean by gullies? The flood channels?
The flood channels. The flood channels. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Lara. I called and left his phone number here. He runs the Rossmore Homeowners Association. He's been dealing with coyotes for 4 and 5 years, and they found out everything that works and everything that doesn't. The man's a wealth of information, and I really think you guys ought to talk to him. And that's all I have to say. Mainly, thank you so much.
Karen Sanders.
She doesn't want to speak.
She passed?
Passing.
Lauren Tupa.
Thank you for calling this special meeting. One thing, I haven't seen too many rats or possum eating our dogs or eating our cats lately. I'm sure it happens, but it doesn't appear that much of a problem. I look at it this way, okay? I too have lived in West Garden Grove for over 40 years. We've had coyotes there all those years, and this is not an issue that has just come up. We heard about the 19 incidents, but hey, these coyotes have been killing our dogs and cats for a good number of years, and many of us, quite frankly, are sick and tired of it. As far as I'm concerned, a coyote is a wild animal that has no place in urban life. So far, it's bad enough. It's been eating our 15-year-old pets and cats and all of this. One of these days, folks, it may just eat my granddaughter or yours, all right? It's happened around, and if we look underneath, the information is there. Look what happened in Griffith Park, and look what happened over there in Cypress at Forest Lawn. I think we're at the point where we have to address the fact that these animals are urbanized. And like I explained to you folks last week, when in broad daylight you have a coyote come right up against you and literally brush against the side of your leg in daylight while you're holding your pet up in the air, yelling and doing the fuzzy advice that we had as far as making sure that we yell and scream and they'll run away. This one did not run away. I was lucky it didn't eat our pet. Okay. So in closing, the message is, I think the lady brought up a good point. Rossmore, some other communities have attacked the problem very successfully. Maybe a lot of this damage is only being done by a pair of coyotes that work together, all right? So I don't think the problem, I think we can solve the problem, okay? But we have to work together on all fronts. Sure, we don't leave any pet food out there. That's a silly thing to do, for rats or possums or coyotes up there. But I still want to take my dog for a walk. I mean, my wife is afraid. Once it's dark, she's afraid to take her dog out there for a walk. Hey, we pay high taxes like we all do here, and there are certain rights that we demand in the city, and that's to have a safe street, okay? I don't want to be testifying here in front of you folks someday and saying that my granddaughter got mauled by a coyote, okay? Then it's going to be too late. We can act, and I still think the best route is to go ahead, hire that professional trapper. If you can't, like I said last week, if you can't find that lair of young coyotes, you've got one heck of a problem. These people are good. They can deal with the problem. And then you get rid of them, okay? You get rid of the breeding stock, etc., and you will be able to control the problem. Right now, we have proven that this problem is out of control, okay? And quite frankly, I don't think we need to live with that much longer. Thank you for listening to me.
Patty Van Sant.
Hi. We have lost on our small cul-de-sac on Vanguard Avenue 8 cats that I know of recently. 3 of them were mine. And my last one was a very special 12-year-old that played ball like a dog and shook hands. And when I was rebuilding my house, I tore my house down and built a big house. And he had to go outside, and he wouldn't come back in after he enjoyed being outside. So I lost him. And we have 13, I think, houses on our cul-de-sac, and almost every one of us has lost one or more.
What street do you live on?
Vanguard, 6801 Vanguard, between Springdale and Knott. And, I feel for the animals because I'm an adopter. I find animals homes and do things like that. And I don't like the idea of trapping them and shooting them. I don't think that's humane. I think what I've heard is that they're coming through the pipes, the big water pipes or something from the Los Al and way over there on the way west side. And I think that those pipes need to have some sort of a grid in them because, I'm clear over here and they're coming all the way over to my house. Now, in Whittier, where my folks live, they live up by the hills. They have an enormous water system with these gigantic 10-foot pipes that carry the water behind their house in a ravine, but they have a screen on it, like it's actually chain link, and the animals can't get through that. Now, I think that if that's how they're coming down here from way out there, let's put a stop to that. But I don't like shooting them. I don't want to relocate one of them and then have his poor mate and her children somewhere else. I have to say I feel bad for them. I just don't want them here, and I think if there's a way of just preventing them from walking down here, that would be the simplest thing. Keep them over in the golf course or something where they can catch wild rodents instead of our animals. That's all.
Thank you. Dennis Van Sant.
Good evening. I just wanted to ask, have we contacted the military about this and the 2 reservations that are close to our city?
We have not.
Because I think that that's where they're coming from. We've got hundreds of acres of open land over there, and I think that's needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Mike O'Donnell.
Good evening, everybody. I just have a couple of points. One of them is a couple years ago we had a cat that we went out in the backyard in the early morning and found the cat's tail and the cat's skull, and the rest of it was gone. I have 2 dogs that I can't take out after daylight to do their business before they have to go that long stretch to the morning. The guy that lives next to me, he had a dog that was severely attacked. He spent, I believe it was $1,600 in medical for that dog, and bad decision on his part. He allowed the dog in the backyard again, and 2 weeks later the coyote came back and finished the job. I think it's pretty clear to me that this problem has exploded since the construction work of the 22-405 interchange. And whatever solution we come up with, and whatever the cost of that, I think that it should be considered that OCTA and Caltrans share the cost in that, because it wasn't until that construction project began that there was, the neighborhood is just flooded with them. And you used to see them every now and again, and that's one thing, but when you see them on a daily basis, that's another. And it's another when they're killing your pets. So thank you.
Thank you. Christine Case.
Hi. I also wanted to thank you for this meeting. It's caused a lot of some heated discussions on our Facebook page. I, too, am not sure how I want it done. I'm sad to think that an animal that's just doing its natural thing to be killed because it's doing its natural thing. But at the same time, I want to be able to enjoy my neighborhood again. I want to be able to walk my dog. I want to be able to put my dog in the backyard, and I can't because my backyard backs the 22 freeway, and there's the flood control channel, and I know where they are because you can see their stuff. So anyway. Thank you.
Okay, I have two more tickets that have nothing to do with the city, with Coyote. We're going to save these two tickets and discuss the Coyote situation, and then we'll come back to those tickets. There were a number of things said. One person said we ought to get money from Orange County Transit Authority and Caltrans. He certainly doesn't know much about Caltrans, Orange County Transit Authority, because you're not going to get a dime from them for anything. Another fellow said that he paid high taxes in Garden Grove. I can't let that go. You have a utility tax in Stanton of about 7%. You have a utility tax in Los Alamitos. You have a utility tax in Cypress. You have a utility tax of 11% in Seal Beach. And there's about a 7% utility tax in Westminster. That pretty much surrounded West Garden Grove. Believe me, you got good taxes there, and you ought to appreciate that. Okay, let's go on. Everything I've heard, and it seems to me that we should come down to two things. We ought to eliminate what we can at this point and go forward with an education program to not leave out food. And I can't see, I have a neighbor myself that's really a mule type guy. And if he decides to leave that out, he doesn't care. He'll do it. An education system will work to some degree, but not to 100%. There's going to be people that have fruit trees that will not prune them, will not get access off of them. I have an apple tree. I'm probably guilty of it myself. But do I go out there every morning to see how many apples have fallen and pick them up? I don't. I do believe that the Coyote program, I've been here since Peggy and I got married. We moved here in 71. I've never heard about as much coyotes until this last year as I have now. I haven't actually seen one myself, but I know they're here, and they're all over the place. And I would make a motion here in a quick minute, but why don't I wait for comments from the rest of the council? Anybody like to say anything?
I would.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. I have some personal experience. I live on the west side of Garden Grove, and I have some personal experience with coyotes, being the remnants in West Grove Park, of seeing last spring. My wife's seen coyotes in the College Park area, and I've worked in a program and worked with a professional trapper who worked with actually Mr. Lara in Rossmore, who had experience in locating and trapping coyotes. Now, I knew probably about within the last year that this was a potential problem coming to Garden Grove, but the more I read up on it, the more I found out it's not a local problem just for us, it's a local problem for other cities as well. In fact, from my experience working with this professional, I found out he has services throughout all of Orange County in locating coyotes. And the main thing I wanted to start, wanted to advocate and pursue, and the city council backed it, was having an education program starting back in June to educate the community about the issue of coyotes and the potential of coyote involvement in their habitats, and they're urbanized. They're here. The main thing I picked up too is you can't eradicate coyotes in your community, you can only control them. And one of the educational options that we heard about was education and reducing their food source. That's why they're coming down here. That's why they stay here. That's why they have habitats here. So if you eliminate that through an educational program, people being involved, but that's obviously a considerate effort on the part of the community to do that. I know pet owners, loving pet owners, which I am. I have a dog and a cat. Will do what they can to protect the safety of their animals. And it's not a situation where we can completely protect them all the time in our community, but we do our best. But there is an issue out there, and we have to do what we can as a city. Thank you to the West Garden Grove and your Facebook for the awareness. It's growing, I think, and the magnitude, maybe we're more aware of it now because of social media, which is a good thing. We're learning more about crime prevention. We're also learning about potential problems of safety in our community from coyotes. So that's a good thing that the word is getting out. But as it stands right now, I think what I would advocate at this point is for any problem, you should do an assessment of it. We found out there were 17 attacks or killed pets in one particular area of town, so that should at least initiate an effort to find out where they are coming from and where are the problem areas. And the professional services of a trapper would help us identify exactly where the problem may be and recommendations on how to mitigate and attack the problem. We heard in the presentation about education being one facet of it. I think we're all in agreement. I think we started that in June. I think we need to get out throughout the community, West Grove, Central, Garden Grove. We're hearing more reports about that. Abatement, and that is maybe finding out or determining the problem, the extent of the problem. If it's significant enough, which I think it is, from what I've heard, what I've read, that we should hire the professional services to abate the problem as it stands right now. We should have a definite timeline for doing that, and I think from here on forward, we should educate, as other cities have done. Huntington Beach is a good example. Seal Beach, Rossmore is a good example. We should get involved with the program, involve everybody. And we should also look at, we heard about structural deterrence, be it the flood channels, they're going back and forth as their pathway of in and out of our city. But once they're here to stay because of the food source. Let's work on removing the food source. So it's almost a three-prong approach to addressing the problem. And the immediate step, I think, is an abatement process to at least have a trapper to come out and locate and then trap those coyotes that we can, and then work on the educational aspect of this as well. Simultaneously, we all have to work together on this.
Maria, is my understanding that you've got some kind of a finding if we decided to hire a trapper?
Yes. If you decide to hire a trapper, you need to make a finding, find and determine that coyotes are injuring property in the city of Garden Grove, and then you would authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for coyote abatement that requires the contractor to conduct its operations in accordance with all applicable federal, state, and local law that provides for defense and indemnification of the city for the activity and is in accordance with other terms the city manager deems appropriate.
Okay. Chris, any questions? Any discussion?
Not so much, Mayor. I'm just, just sitting here reflecting, just a little torn about, one life for another. I mean, that's, I think, my biggest, stumbling block right now. I realize it's a very close and personal issue for many people and pet owners here. And I'm just, I think I would definitely side with Councilman Chris Barrett at the end of the day. But, just thinking about life and death here, one life for another, it's a hard one for me.
Steve?
Yeah, thanks. I have young children, and my youngest, who's now 5, but not too long ago when he was still 4 years old, out at lunch with my mom, his grandma, one day saw one run by and got freaked out, so we went through a whole kind of family education on coyotes, and I showed him the Living with Coyotes video, and that didn't seem to help too much. In fact, he went to sleep crying that night saying, "I don't want to live with coyotes," and I understand because I don't either. So I'm all in favor of trying to do something to get them out of our neighborhoods. My take on it is it's a very complicated problem, and I also think it requires a multi-agency comprehensive solution to figure out how to do it, and that would be, some of them were mentioned, some are not, but OCTA, Caltrans, Orange County Flood Control District. I mean, there was mention about putting chain link fencing or grates over the flood channels. That's great, except the city doesn't own them and has nothing to do with them. We can't go on there any more than I could go put a grate on your front door. The city cannot go in and put flood grates on the flood control channels. We can call them and urge them to do it. We can all kind of come together and lobby them to do it. We can, create kind of a campaign and try and get them at the table with us. But that's not property that the city owns. So the city only has control over things within our own scope, which is city streets and common area amenities specific to the city, not to the county or the state. It was mentioned that this has really reared its head since the construction, and I believe that's totally true. I think that, you know, the widening of the 405 freeway, the 405-22 connector, the 405-605, all these major projects that are happening have displaced the natural habitat for a lot of these animals, not just coyotes, but that's what we're seeing. And I think they've taken to the flood control channels. They're coming up into the neighborhoods, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So it's directly related to a lot of heavy civil construction activity that, for the benefit of the mobility of our county and people being able to get around on the freeway. So that's another sort of inherent dilemma. Anyways, I too have concerns about how we go about doing this, so I would prefer to see us do it in a way that's humane as opposed to killing them. And I'm concerned also about just sort of legal liability and exposure concerns to protect taxpayer dollars that would otherwise have to be spent defending lawsuits from animal rights groups and that sort of thing if we were to take that approach. I personally think we need to study it some more and get other agencies involved and try and find a more comprehensive solution than just getting Maverick and hiring a trapper.
Tina?
Yes. During the public discussions, another question came up is, do we have a plan to pinpoint where they are coming from?
We established a hotline, and then we also have reports from the Facebook page and also from Orange County Animal Care. So we have some reports to date where we can track back where the coyotes have been sighted. In addition, we understand from talking to the professional trapper that they can, based on their experience, they can identify where they're coming from, and they can identify nests and scat and things like that.
That's where I'm getting at, is part of the service for the trapper includes pinpointing where they come from. Even though if we don't use a trapper, I still like some kind of professional service to pinpoint where they're coming from so we can try to have a solution on that. And as part of our effort to prevent them or educate the public on dealing with them, I'm suggesting that the council approve also these educational pamphlets go out with our water bills. And the next thing is we probably should also include the Los Alamitos-based officials, because they have worked with us before on the compost issues, and they are very cooperative, and maybe they can help us out in deterring some of the location. Maybe it came from the base, maybe it didn't, but we wouldn't know that until we have a professional person telling us exactly where they come from. I'm pretty much with the rest of the council that, that the animals do have their natural instinct, but at the same time, I'm weighing the rights of our citizens to freely go about in their own home, in their own backyard, and for the pets to be out there. A lot of people buy a home with a backyard just because of the pet. So I do want the city to study more about all the options, and but fast. We need a fast solution. So if they could somehow give us more information fairly quickly.
I'd like to make a motion. I think that we ought to go forward. I think we have the findings to go forward with, first of all. I think that findings is property, that we, certainly dogs and cats are people's property, the property of the citizens of Garden Grove, so I think that's a fine finding. I do believe that we need to take it a two-way go, is certainly educating the public. I think we ought to really hound people to actually not leave food out, to clean their trees up, clean up any groceries they might have for the dogs in the backyard. And dogs, I meant coyotes. And certainly, I do believe that we need to have a trapper and to eradicate the coyotes. And I'm making that a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Motion received 3 yes votes with Councilmember Jones and Councilmember Fawn voting no.
Okay, I'd like you to go try to put this program together as soon as possible and certainly report back to the city council what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, Charles Mitchell.
Well, actually, this is a bit wild animal related. When they were
Have you
doing
been
all
going
the
to some parties again, or?
when they were doing all the construction on the Garden Grove Freeway, right around this area, we were inundated with a number of wild animals, particularly raccoons and other furry creatures. And they became very familiar with people. Matter of fact, I was sitting in the patio one evening, and we had an enclosed front porch with a pet door, and we kept our cat food out there on the porch. And I looked up, and here's 2 raccoons sitting at my front door inside the house, waiting to come in to see what I was going to do. So I shoot them out. But the other factor is that the Orange County Vector Control issued a warning about the fact that raccoons carry a disease that is absolutely devastating to dogs. And if you leave water out for a dog, particularly with all the activity of these wild pets, that they can contaminate the water and it can poison your dog. Now, I don't know if there are any issues as far as any illnesses or diseases that the coyotes might be carrying, but it's something to consider that it might be more than just a matter of them attacking a small animal. It might be a matter of public safety because of potential diseases. But if we're going to go with having a trapper, then I can make another suggestion. When you trap some of these coyotes, bring them over here to Civic Center. They can take care of all of our geese and ducks and chicken and rabbits that are just running wild around here. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment on what Mr. Mitchell said. Possible health concerns from coyotes: rabies, canine distemper, canine heartworm, mange mites, tapeworms. That's what they carry.
A lot of us could use a tapeworm. Craig Duffy.
I just came by to drop a letter off for consideration. Not here to take your time up. I put it in writing. I'd like to, yes, thank you for the purpose of what has been done across the United States, what's been done San Clemente City for Safe Route School. We lost a 6-year-old Hispanic boy in Santa Ana Friday. We lost a father in San Clemente in a shopping center. It is not just Garden Grove. We're having a problem in Orange County, and I'd like to consider the 3-foot rule, the signage, and the costs associated to the city when that is implementation, associated costs for police calls. That will be maybe possibly down the road, but I understand from law enforcement that might be an issue to identify who is guilty or not. So without taking your time, I've taken the time to outline it, ask for consideration, put it on the council for request to the Traffic Commission to meet more oftenly, to address the community concerns, and maybe come up with some recommendations that will benefit down the road as a master plan on the shelf. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Baird, anything?
No. Thank you.
Gina? Chris?
Yes, sir.
This is adjourned until next Tuesday night.